Hi, everyone. I thought I would talk about my health issues, an update I know on my main channel, I've talked about it before, but I haven't really given an update. And I do realize that this ASMR channel, you know, so far nobody's complained, but there's bound to be somebody saying this isn't ASMR. And maybe it isn't, but uh, on this channel, I feel I can take a bit more time talking about things and not feel as rushed. I still feel a little rushed sometimes because I don't want to make a 2 hour video. But yeah, I wanted to get out my feelings about everything I've been through the past few years with my health issues. You know, everybody needs to be heard somehow. Uh, my my former family doctor, I don't think he ever really listened to me. And I'm not naming any names or anything, uh, but I just feel I need to express myself. So I've had what happened with me is I was working a job making plastic bags, and I was hired on in 1993, and I worked there for 13 years. It was just a small family-owned business. Sometimes it was just me working. And after a few years, and the main, I had different jobs. I even drove a forklift for 13 or close to 13 years. I never had a license or anything, uh, but I did it. Uh, and so one of the main jobs was having these plastic header cards and these white plastic bags, and they would be put on Greyhound bus lines, garbage bags. So it'd be like that. And we would staple, I forget what it was, maybe 30 of them together. They come out of the machine in 30s or 50s. You'd grab them and you'd put them in the stapler, industrial stapler, and you'd staple them. So, there's a lot of clutching and grabbing and 13 years of it. But like I said, there were other jobs too, but still, it was still very repetitive work. And so uh, in the late 90s, I'm not sure exactly what year, I started to get this uh, pain in my arm here, tendonitis. And, I would go to my doctor about it, and slowly it would go up my arm. So I'd have the pain up here. And then doing more of the repetitive work, it would go into this arm. And it came to the point where my work actually, even though I didn't have any uh, like health insurance or anything, my work paid for me to see a sports therapist, and he would do the TENS machine. But the thing is with that never helped because after, I went to see him after work or whatever. The next day I would go back to work doing the repetitive work. Trying to gather my thoughts here. Uh, so yeah, so in 2006, after working there for 13 years, I uh, I got on to workman's compensation through my doctor because I'd been to my family doctor a few times about it, and he never really helped me. Uh, but luckily, I got on workman's compensation for 2 years, and of course, I think after the first year, they want you to be doing something, and so I had to go to Loyalist College, and I had to pick a course. And the only course I was kind of interested in was the TV media course, but it was 3 years long and they wouldn't accept that. So I ended up taking a 2 year advertising course. And uh, I really had no interest in advertising, but I took the course and I got a diploma after 2 years. And at the same time, uh, foolishly, when I was younger, I quit high school in grade 10. So that was always, kind of an embarrassment for me. But I got my grade 12 during that time too, which I'm proud of. I got my diploma. So from 2006 until my marriage breakup in 2012, I didn't work. And looking back on it now, I probably could have worked, but the only kind of jobs in this area that, you'd get hired on, it's mainly always repetitive work. And my arms were, even after, a few years off, they were still hurting. And then my marriage breakup in 2012, and I moved into this apartment that year that year. And so I didn't have a job and I had money in the bank, but from us selling our home, but that money was not going to last. And there was one point where the rent was about to be due and I didn't have the money for it. And then a sort of miracle happened. And I got this money from, it had to do, well, I don't want to go into the details, but I got a check for $1,000 and I paid my rent. And so this was the time too, I was feeling sorry for myself, staying in this apartment a lot, not going out much. And, I don't want to say I was depressed because maybe I was just really sad or no confidence, definitely no confidence. And so I did a stage play, and there's a video on this channel of me doing a rehearsal for it. And at first I thought it was just, this is going to be a long video. But, and at first I thought I'd just have a few lines and I needed to do something besides get a job, of course. But I needed to do something for my confidence. And so I did that. And I had a lot of lines in the play, but I did it and I was very proud of myself. And then after that, in early 2013, I got a job finally. Uh, and it was through a temp agency called Adecco. And I worked as a temp at Procter and Gamble in Belleville, Ontario for about 2 years. It was very hard work, very hard physical work, some repetitive work, quite a bit actually. So once again, I was very concerned about my arms, but I had to survive, and I did it. And they were 12-hour shifts, working 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And then every week it would flip over and it would be the reverse. So you'd work at 7 at night till 7 in the morning. So one week I'd work 24 hours and the next week I'd be working 60 hours. So, and that was minimum wage and wasn't fun, but I was working and surviving. So I was still going to my family doctor, who's now retired, once in a while about my arms. And one time he actually sent me to a specialist in Kingston, Ontario. And I was thinking at the time, at last, but it was really disappointing. I went to see him. He looked at the paperwork. I think his the nurse or whoever it was asked me some questions. He came into the room. He didn't even look at my arms. And he threw me a prescription for antidepressant pills, not because I was depressed, but he said, to help with the pain level. But I didn't stay on those very, very long. And like I said, I was still, suffering with my tendonitis and still working and wasn't getting any help. So in 2015, after working at P&G for a couple of years, I got a job at McKesson Canada here in Trenton through Adecco. So once again, I was a temp. But after a few months, I was hired on with McKesson Canada. And, once again, I was very proud of, you know, working again. And even though I still had the tendonitis, and it was difficult for me because it was a lot of it was really hard work, hard physical work, and repetitive work too. Lots of repetitive work. And so, every once in a while, I'd go to my family doctor and complain, and sometimes he'd give me like a week off work or whatever. But that doesn't really help because you go back to it doing the repetitive work. So while I was working there, and it would get worse and worse, I tried everything. Advil. I took a lot of Advil and Tylenol when I was there. Not so much when I was at home, but at work I did. I tried CBD oil. I've bought so many things through the years trying to help me. A massage mat, neck traction device that was later on. Cervical memory foam pillow, compression gloves, a $200 Dr. Ho's pain therapy TENS machine, CBD oil, like I mentioned, acupuncture mat, heating pads, ice pack wrap, and more. I spent over $1,000 to try to keep working without, you know, being in too much pain. And there would be, with the CBD oil, when I started that, there would be at least one day at work where I wasn't in any pain. So there'd be times, more than once, where I would try something that's like, I'm cured, I'm not in pain. And then it was, the next day or two, it would return. Same with the acupuncture that I tried. So in 2019, around 2019, I started to get neck pain and it was bad. And it would go into my shoulders, so my neck and shoulders, and it's been there ever since. And once again, I was going to my family doctor, and I finally got a doctor's note to be put on modified duties, at least that. But the thing is, at this place, it's not modified duties. And anytime the insurance company would mention that, I would stop them and say, it's not modified duties. I was doing one of the three regular jobs I was doing. Nothing was modified. And so the job I was doing, which was the easiest uh, physically, is just standing in one spot for 8 hours, picking products really fast, and putting them and dropping them into bins. And so you do that for 8 hours. So of course that didn't help. Yeah, I forgot to mention the numbness in my hands. Uh, I started getting numbness in my hands the last few years. I had to go to my family doctor about that, and nothing was ever done. So I had the numbness in my hands and the tendonitis in my arms, and then the last couple of years I was working the neck and shoulder pain. Yeah, so I continued to struggle, but I needed to work, and it seemed no doctor was going to help me. And I even tried to help myself. I paid for 13 uh, sessions with a chiropractor. And anytime I would go to something like that or acupuncture, I'd think, this is going to work. This is, I didn't, I had, I tried to be positive about getting help, but it never did help me. And, I had physio, I had massages, like I mentioned, acupuncture. Uh, I tried to get back on workman's compensation, but, because at the time I was thinking it was work related, and, but I couldn't get back on workman's compensation. They couldn't, I couldn't prove to them that it was work related. And I was getting so frustrated by the end that my former family doctor, one time, I went to him about, I think it was neck and shoulder pain. And he asked me, well, what's the pain level between 1 and 10? And I was getting so frustrated with him, not, I'm crying, basically crying out for help. I said 10. And he said, so it's like being hit by a truck. And, that was the end of that. I should have actually told him why I said 10, but I didn't. And you learn through the years about speaking up and everything, and I certainly speak up a lot more than I used to. And around that time too, I was talking to him about short-term disability, and then I might have mentioned long-term disability, and he said, because I was thinking I don't want to work any I don't mind working, really. I'm not a lazy person, and I enjoy the people that I work with. And but I asked him about long-term disability, and he said, "Oh, no, no. Uh, it's really difficult to get a long-term disability." He's basically saying, "Forget it. You can't go on long-term disability." But I'd had enough by January of 2021, and I was working away and in so much pain. And I just went to my supervisor and said, I need to talk to my family doctor about getting. I was hoping to get 6 weeks off work, short-term disability, and so I did. I got the time off, and my supervisor seemed, kind of concerned and said, "Well, let me know how it's going and all that." And he wanted to know when I'm coming back to work, obviously. So while I was off 6 weeks, and I guess my doctor was sending the insurance company information from my past, one day I got this letter in the mail. I'm reading it, and I'm on long-term disability. I didn't even try to get on it. I didn't, if I knew there was a chance, obviously I would have pushed for it. But you know, I, that's the other thing I want to say is, like doctors in general, they're great, but they're human and they make mistakes and they're not always right. That's what I've learned. But somehow I got on long-term disability and I'm still on it. But they're making, I think it's 2 years you can be on it. So it'll be 2 years next January. But they're making a decision on my claim. I believe it's August 9th, but it might be a bit earlier. So, that's put a lot of stress on me, and I feel I should be on it. I turn 65 next February, so I'd only be on it for a few more months. And so I wrote a letter to my insurance company, just like I've told you, with my history. Some of it they do know, but they're an insurance company, and like a lot of people, you do feel like a number, and it's like I wanted to not, and I'm not doing this to for you to feel sorry for me. I didn't write the letter to the insurance company for them to feel sorry for me because I know they don't care. But I wanted to get my feelings out, and this is why I'm doing this video. I'm getting my feelings out, and I know that there's so many stories out there, and I'm just telling my story. And I just, you know, uh, through the years, I'd heard about chronic pain, and you never really understand what it is until you have it. And so I feel, you know, compassion for anybody out there that has chronic pain. And I also feel, anybody that's on disability, they get mocked too, or they don't want to work. And that's not, I'm sure there are people that, fake their injuries or whatever and don't want to work, but that wasn't me. But I'm not working in pain because I'd done it enough. So in December of 2019, going to my former family doctor, he finally sent me to get an x-ray on my spine. And that didn't show too much, but I guess it showed enough for them to finally have me get an MRI. But that took quite a long time. But I finally had my MRI while I was, on this disability. And that's the thing too. I was on the long-term disability before I had my MRI. And with the MRI, it was like proof that it was real, right? Proof for them and for me. And so with the MRI, I discovered that I have Chiari Malformation 1, which I'd never heard of. I had to look it up. And when I was looking it up, some of the things that came up are neck pain, pain across shoulder blades, numbness in hands and feet, general body pain. So, right there, that's frustrating that that wasn't looked into years and years ago, or at least when I started to complain about my neck and shoulders. So this is where it gets confusing. I had an MRI of my spine, but when my former family doctor put out a note for me to see another specialist, in the note, which I have, he says it was a head MRI and it wasn't. So when I did go to see this specialist in Mississauga in this past April, he's looking at the paperwork and he's looking for the head MRI, but there wasn't one. It was a spine MRI. And so, and he was actually really good. He seemed to actually have a bit of compassion for me. And before that, I'd seen another specialist in Oshawa the year before. And when they do the reflex, the hammer, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but they tap my, my knee or whatever. And I guess it's supposed to like jump. It's just dead. uh, Bit of humor in this, but yeah. So he had to email my doctor and set me up for an MRI in Belleville for my head. And also, he wanted me to go to a pain clinic, and the closest one is in Kingston, Ontario, which is about 60 miles from here. So that was in April, and I waited a couple of months, and I went to see him about my pain, and I asked him about the MRI, and he's kind of puzzled, and he's looking up his notes on the computer, and he had never sent for me to be booked for an MRI, but now it's finally booked, and supposedly, because there was a backlog of patients, I'm probably not going to have the MRI until maybe October. And he also my new this is my new family doctor, and he's also saying that because I brought up about seeing a going to a pain clinic, and he said I'm your pain specialist. So so what he's doing right now is he started me on these patches. There's one here, and I change this every week, and it's called Butrans. Sorry, it started out Butrans 5, and I used that for a couple of weeks, and it didn't do anything. I was still having to take Tylenol, and then Butrans 7.5, then Butrans 10, Butrans 15. Every few weeks, and now I'm on Butrans 20. And when he started me on this, he also gave me muscle relaxant. So when I started on these 20s, the first day I put this on, for the next day or two, I had almost no pain. And so here we go again, seriously thinking, at least I'm not, I've still got my issues, but at least I'm not in pain. But it came back. And so this really, I'm still taking it. I think I'm thinking of maybe gradually talking to my doctor and getting weaned off of it, because I am still in pain. I still have to take extra strength Tylenol at least twice a day. So yeah, and that's that's the thing too. When I left work, I was thinking after 6 weeks off work, I would at least feel not as not as in much pain. But being off work for 2 years, it's still here, you know. So that's my story. And if anybody has any advice for me, I'd appreciate it. Like I said, it's very stressful right now for me, waiting to hear word of if I'm gonna continue being on the long-term disability. I know that if I'm denied it for the next few months, I think there's something else I could go on, but that might take a few weeks, you know, to get on to it. I don't know, but that is my story, and so thank you for listening. And I appreciate everybody that leaves a comment. And like I said, I'm not doing this video. Oh, Larry, I feel so sorry for you. It's like it's okay. I feel sorry enough for myself the last you know, few years that I don't need anybody else feeling sorry for me. But, any advice or anything, and or you can, if you like, tell me a bit about what you're going through. And like I said, I know I'm not the only one. So thank you for watching, and bye.